He was the fun-loving attorney who captured her heart. He was a happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
From that point on, they were in a full-on relationship.
Okay, let's see, Star Wars fans. It is me, the horror miser Monty G, or just call me Monty G. Monty doesn't matter because this is not horror related. Oh, give me a second here. Forgot about that. I had to mute the actual stream coming from YouTube. So they don't hear it on the whatchamacallit. I forgot to do that. Yes, I am here live on my channel. It's still a horror channel, but we're going to be talking Star Wars: The Rise of Jedi. And I have my favorite film critic, Mark. Now, I might mess up your last name here, Krawcyzk. Did I mess that up?
It's close enough. It's Krawcyzk, but that's why that's why I just say Mark the Movie Man, because that good Polish German last name is just so hard to say. So
okay, he is here. I've been on his podcast a few times, the Spoiler Room podcast. So I just decided to say, Mark, come on my channel. Let's talk about Star Wars. And he decided, okay, that's good enough. So he's here right now. So we're going to talk about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And first of all, Mark, I just want to get your overall opinion about this particular final episode of what they call the Skywalker saga.
Well, considering I was 2.5 years old when I first saw Star Wars in the theater, it was my first movie, ingrained itself in my DNA. I watched this and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I was a little disappointed because I'm one of the 5 people in the world that really enjoyed The Last Jedi. So when this came around and it felt like they took kind of a step back, I was like, okay, but I still enjoyed it. I liked a lot of the things they did in it. It was actually better the second time around because I saw it twice. And second time I saw it in 3D, which it didn't have to be except for the space stuff. But overall, I thought it was serviceable. I mean, it's a massive undertaking. They had to not only try to wrap up this new trilogy, but also try to wrap up the storyline that is arced over 8 films. And they tried to do it all in one film. So there are going to be some shortcomings, and there's some things I wish they would have did differently. But overall, I was entertained. I came out going, that was a lot of fun. I didn't come out like some people going, man, that sucked. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of good things in it. Not necessarily good things either, but I didn't think it was horrible by any means.
Yeah, because I could say I was entertained by it. I enjoyed most of the stuff that they happened in the story. I felt as though that Abrams tried to clean up some of the mistakes that Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi, because I'm one of the few people that actually liked The Last Jedi. There's one particular part I didn't like. I didn't have a problem with Luke Skywalker at all. I know a lot of, especially the Star Wars fanboys, hated Luke in The Last Jedi, but I didn't have a problem with it at all. But I thought it was entertaining. I enjoyed most of the aspects. My only problem was I felt the story was a bit weak. They had no juice. It had no heart. There was the only problem, mainly because I think Abrams was trying to clean up some of the mistakes that were made in The Last Jedi.
Well, it's hard to say if it's mistakes by The Last Jedi or trying to appease the very vocal fan base that came out after The Last Jedi, because there are definitely a number of moments in Rise of Skywalker where that kind of took me aback. I was like, oh, you just put that in there because of all the complaining on the internet. There's most of the parts I was okay with, but there's a few parts, if you followed anything after The Last Jedi, you look at it and go, okay, you did that just for that, those arguments, those things that people complained about, which is kind of sad because, and it's a trend we're seeing not only in this, and I won't go off too far, but it's a trend we're starting to see in films to where it seems like the studios are starting to listen a little bit too much to the internet. And I think we're starting to see that with a number of films, and Rise of Skywalker was one of them.
Yeah, because I know what scene you're definitely talking about, because when that happened, Oh, by the way, people, just like I did put in the thumbnail, and I'll say it right now, we will be spoiling the film. We'll be, because it's the only way we can talk about this particular episode of Star Wars is to spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, well, you're going to get spoilers on this one. So just let you know, we will spoil the picture because you have to tell these people that, because people start shouting out, "You're spoiling! I didn't watch it." Well, don't watch this video. You always watch the playback after you've seen Rise of the Jedi, because you can't watch the playback, because I'll keep this up, but let's warn you right now. But yeah, because it's like when the film begins, we see Kylo Ren, and we see, there was no surprise that Emperor Palpatine was coming back in this film. Do you think that we really needed him to come back in this particular film?
We didn't. I know why he did it. He did it also. I thought it was actually kind of creative in that he used the Emperor to pretty much try to explain any problem you had over the last 8 films, not just the trilogy, but over the 8 films. Did we need him back? No.
Mm-hmm.
I think bringing him back was cool, and how they did it and explained it was great because it was borrowing from Extended Universe. Specifically, I was a big fan of it. Dark Empire, which was a comic book series released by Dark Horse right after, soon after Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not soon after, but in the early 90s. It was called Dark Empire. It was a great story. First issue has this super, I forgot the name of it. I know I'm a horrible fan, but I forgot the name of it. But just this massive ship, and it has Luke all dressed in dark following behind the Emperor. And talk about your first few pages going, what the ever living? What?
Like, what
and
the
then
hell?
And then you find out Luke was trying to find out how the Emperor survived, because the Emperor was able to transfer himself into clones, which everybody loved that story. Dark Empire, if you haven't read it yet, it's a fantastic story. And that's what this is borrowing from, is the Emperor living through clones or whatnot, or passing his consciousness to other people, which explains why he wanted Luke to strike him down in Jedi now, because it helps explain that a little bit. He wasn't blood, but you get the idea that the Emperor could still move himself into Luke, and that's why he wanted Luke to kill him. But I liked it. It didn't feel like fan service, and I liked the fact they used that to explore the Sith, because the Sith really hasn't been explored much in any of that. I mean, we get a bit of it in the prequels, a little, but here, I mean, we've got this whole planet and a cult and the fleet. I mean, it was epic what you wanted for your final film of the saga. So, long story short, too late, I know. Emperor, yes, I did not mind him coming back because of the way they explained it.
Yeah, I thought Abrams did a good job in explaining him coming back. I know a lot of people said it would have been better if he would have came back at the end of The Last Jedi, and that would have been a little bit more better. But I really didn't have a problem with him coming back. I thought it was interesting to see him coming back. I guess I was kind of a little bit, I would say not annoyed, but kind of disappointed that they decided to say he was part of this back scheme, since with Smoke and Rey and Kylo Ren. No, I did all this behind the scenes stuff to bring back the whatchamacallem. I was kind of a bit disappointed in that aspect, but no, I really did not have a problem with him coming back as well. So, but it made an interesting threat, the fact that he's back. So that was good. I thought that made the can't think of what I'm trying to say here. I think it made the film more interesting to look at, and then we have a good villain. Although I wouldn't mind Smoke coming back, because I would love his origins, because we don't know where Smoke come from. I would have been more appropriate to see more of Smoke in his back origin, where he comes from, because there was some rumor saying that it was Window. I think it was somebody said it was Window. That it was him. He was supposed to. He survived his encounter with Palpatine and Anakin, and somehow he turned to the dark side to heal himself. They thought that was him, but I said that can't be him. That wouldn't make any sense. But what are you going to do?
Lots of theories. Fans love to theorize. It
Oh yeah.
leaves it open. The film leaves it open for that. You're playing it safe though with the Emperor. You're right. I can see where you didn't quite like where he explained how he did everything behind the scenes. That I felt was kind of playing it safe. But again, it seemed you use the Emperor for any plot hole or any complaint anyone had, because if you go by what he's saying, he not only pulled the strings where Kylo and Rey could talk across the Force, but he pulled strings way back in the original trilogy and the prequels, basically implying that he's been the puppet master for all 8 films. And while one hand it's cool, I kind of like that. On the other hand, that was a real easy, safe way out rather than just leaving it hanging and not necessarily that he's been manipulating everything from the start. Because I like the actual people didn't. I've actually liked what they've done with the Kylo character, and having the Emperor gives the Kylo character an opportunity to do what ended up happening, him turning to the good side by having the Emperor in here, having a larger threat than him. But I've always liked the Rey Kylo story. For me, what I didn't care for, and they didn't need to do it whatsoever, was having Rey as a
Palpatine.
that, having her being a descendant, I'm like, did it really have to be?
Yeah, and I kind of guessed that probably right after, because that's what everyone was saying. A lot of people are trying to say, no, she's a Skywalker. I said, no, she's not a Skywalker. That's too easy of a guess. I said, she's probably related to Palpatine. I said, that would make more sense. But it's kind of a cop-out. I just would prefer that she's just a scavenger and she's just Force sensitive, and then that's it. Just leave it at that. There's no need to make her a Palpatine or some lost member or some offshoot of Skywalker clan. Just make her she's a scavenger and she's Force sensitive. That would have been better. That would have been better. And
No, I fully agree. She just make her the strong Force user. There's not many Jedi left in the universe. She happens to be that strong with it. Why can't we just have her be a very strong you could easily take her being a Palpatine out of it, just saying that she was when she was born, she was severely strong with the Force. What we've seen in the past, history repeats itself in Star Wars. And that the parents hid her because they knew Palpatine was looking for strong Force users. That's all you had to do. You didn't have to make her.
Yeah, you didn't have to make a Palpatine to say, look, he's looking for Force sensitive children who think that might be a threat to his reign. So that makes it easier. That makes it more believable, as opposed to, we'll just go on ahead. That lets me know that the Rise couldn't come with anything better, so we'll just make her a Palpatine, and that's that. To me, that's kind of a cop-out.
It was at the same time, though, because I had this discussion on my pod on the spoiler room episode we did with this, and someone did explain to me though that it's kind of been established in the Star Wars universe that the Skywalkers and the Palpatines are a bloodline that's the strongest with the Force. So in that respect, they say it makes sense that she's a Palpatine because that's one of the two, if you go kind of medieval, one of the two houses that is very strong with the Force. So they did it, and I can see that explanation, but at the other hand, I could also see the way they did it to where they didn't need it. Either way, the Palpatine part just made it feel like a little bit of service, which I don't mind fan service. I know we say it as a negative a lot of times, depending on the story. In this one, you want it. In this one, you want it because it's the final one in the Skywalker saga. I didn't quite care for the fan service in Rogue One at the beginning of it, but here it's kind of fitting. But I also still feel deep down that it wasn't needed to be a Palpatine, but it was done because of, the way the mythology is, I guess, the way the universe is in Star Wars. It just, they felt the need, they had to. for an explanation, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. All
You
right.
know,
All right. So,
but-
so what do you think about, let's see, Penn, Poe, and Rey? This, I guess you could call them the new generation of Star Wars, of lore, as opposed to Luke, Han, and Leia. What do you think about those three, as far as what they accomplished in the sequel trilogy?
I like them. I like the relationship that they had. There was always talk, but it never really is too much. There's really not a lot of evidence in the movies of a romantical thing possibly between Finn and Rey, which I kind of like. I like the fact they didn't feel the need to put in, it's kind of hinted, but I like what they did with these three, and that they were the three, because they felt very different from Han, Leia, and Luke in many respects. I still think out of the trilogy, though, Finn got the short end of the stick as far as any type of real development. They did do some of it in Last Jedi, his character, but I really would have liked to see, especially in this one, maybe a little bit more with Finn. We get a little bit when they go to Endor and he finds the whole group of people who are like him, who rebelled against the First Order.
Yeah.
With Jannah, and I loved that bit. I loved that whole story bit, but it's kind of just very brief versus what we get, especially with Poe, where we explore a lot more with him. I would have liked to see more with Finn, especially as they obviously play that he's force sensitive. He's not exactly can use the force, but he is absolutely force sensitive because he can determine things. And we do never get the answer that he was going to say something to Rey just before they sink into the sand. We never get the answer of what he was going to tell her.
Because Ben Grimm, what's up, Ben? He actually asked a question. He says, what do you think Finn was going to tell Rey when they're about to die? And that's interesting, because I thought that they were going to continue to do that, because you can see that I thought they were going to go in The Force Awakens, that they were going to have some type of relationship. But then when The Last Jedi comes out, next thing you know, no, he's got this relationship with, I can't remember the mechanic's name.
Rose.
Rose. And then they don't explore that relation again in Rise of Skywalker. Because again, I'm thinking that a lot of people didn't like what happened between him and Rose. So they decided not to push that relationship again between them two. That's what I thought.
That's exactly why. I mean, well, I can't speak because I wasn't in on the discussions, but if you pick up on how Rose is treated in the Rise of Skywalker,
a lot of people talked about that. Yeah,
if you see how she's handled, and if you remember the fallout after The Last Jedi, the sheer volume of rage hitting the internet over her character and her getting threats.
Yeah,
it is just too coincidental that her character barely is on screen and they don't explore anything from Last Jedi, and you had all that fallout after Last Jedi. There's just so much coincidence there. It's really hard not to say, well, they did that because so much outrage over her character. Maybe they felt the need to put her in the background so that people weren't reminded of that and that they got the backlash. And Finn, I just, in this one, I don't know if J.J. Abrams did it on purpose, but you don't feel nearly as much of maybe a relationship between Finn and Rey. And I think it's more a close friendship. I think what he was going to say is that he can feel the force, or that he thinks he might be force sensitive. I don't think it was something romantical about it, but then I could be blind, so I don't know.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Ben thought it was romantic feelings, and I actually thought the same thing too. But as the story goes on, I'm thinking that maybe he's force sensitive too. Maybe that's the reason he wanted to tell her. Was that not that he has romantic feelings about her, but he's feeling, because I thought that they were going to explore that more between him. But I also like that the fact he meets someone similar to him with Jenna, but that's really not explored as much as I thought they should have. Like, maybe going on time constraints, because you're getting towards the end of second act of the film, and we're at the that sea battle thing with the second Death Star, But yeah, I thought that their relationship was okay. I kind of like we see more of Poe because we really don't know that much about him. Then we get that nice relationship between him and that girl. Who's the actress that played her? Because we don't even see her face.
I forgot her name. But yeah, the one that he used to run with, the crew. She was a great character.
Yeah, she was a great character. I liked her. Yeah. I liked her a lot.
I loved that character, and yeah, the relationship between her and Poe and that whole thing, I dug. And maybe, even as this is the end of the saga, you get elements in here where it seems like they're setting up for something else, to where you could have something continue that wouldn't involve the Skywalker saga or story at all, but you could still, with Janna and Finn being force sensitive, and there's a few other elements like with Poe where at the end of the film, I'm like, they could almost do another film or maybe a series. Disney Plus got that money, let's do a series. But I would have liked to see Finn a little more. But yeah, Poe and God, I forgot her name right now. But yeah, I liked those two characters quite a bit. That new character, I wanted to see more of her. That would have been a great exploration with her character and the crew she ran with.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a feeling that eventually we're going to see some spin-offs from this one that will probably deal with just maybe Finn before he joined the Resistance. Probably might see some other stuff. Ben is asking another question. Do you think they'll come up? Do you think anything will come between the Amazon and Lando? He means Jenna and Lando at the end of the season. I think it was more of a daughter-father relationship than anything else. I don't think Lando has any sexual terms with her. I think it's more of a father-daughter thing.
Oh no, it's definitely that. I think I saw an article somewhere where they were talking about, where JJ even talked about it a bit, that Janna, is implied that she is actually Lando's daughter, and Lando knows, or has a suspicion. It wasn't romantical. I got more of since the overall theme of Rise of Skywalker is family. Here you have Rey, who doesn't have a family or know her lineage at all to the very end, and her family is her friends. Kylo is the son of Leia and Han. Luke didn't have kids, as far as we know. But so it just felt like a natural implication, the way the rest of the theme of the movie went, that those two were father and daughter. And I'd love to, Ben, I'd love to see a series or at least a movie with those two. Possibly a series. Disney Plus could definitely do a Star Wars stories series where they explore different characters for different seasons or something. I'd like to see something come of the Lando and Janna, because I like the Janna character quite a bit. I thought she was awesome.
I don't know if Billy D. Williams is going to be able to do a series.
You know what? I was very impressed. They used him in a limited way, in enough to where it wasn't too taxing on him, because I saw him at a convention about 5 years ago, and he had his, wit and everything, but you could tell physically he was hurting, and he was not doing well. And I know he's had medical issues physically anyway. So I thought he looked in this film. I thought he really.
I definitely like seeing him back as Lando. I had no problem with him coming back. Let's see. Amber says, even with wrapping things up, they left a lot open to explore. Yeah, they did. Yeah, This is just the end of the so-called Skywalker saga. It wouldn't surprise me that we'll probably see more of Rey again, maybe as a child, not as I don't know if Daisy Ridley is going to do any more Star Wars films. at all. She might. I don't know. Depends upon how much. I'm pretty sure how much she wants to get paid.
There's that mouse money. It's hard to turn down, man.
I know. Yeah. Let's see. All right. Obviously, elephant in the room. Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the scenes that they had her do? Well, they couldn't do anything with her because, unfortunately, she passed away prior to them starting the film. But the scenes that she was in, did you think those were nice scenes? Do you think they did her character a great way to send her off?
I did, although I was kind of conflicted with it because it was kind of hard to figure out exactly what went on for me. Personally, when I was watching it, I know it was tough because she passed away. It'd be interesting to see what they would have done with her character had she not. They did film some of those scenes, and her scenes with her and Ray were fantastic.
Oh yeah,
in that, and I really, and I liked the parts where she was on screen and what they did, her leading the resistance. That all that was great. Her passing, on second watch, I thought it was more emotional than the first time I watched it, because the first time I was kind of figuring, going, wow, you just stopped your kid from getting, killing Ray so he could get killed. Way to go, Leia. At first. Later on, and after talking to some folks on our episode, it was like, I don't think she expected Ray to actually stab him, but she was trying to stop him from killing Ray. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of her last act, was before she passed on, was trying to stop him from killing Ray, but not necessarily giving Ray an opportunity to skewer him. It still had emotion. In all honesty, for me, the Luke passing in The Last Jedi was more emotional for me. And it was tough because I was with my two boys, and I'm sitting here trying not to get all misty-eyed in front of them, watching Luke pass. Regardless of how you feel about The Last Jedi, this is a character who's been around for my entire life. And I'm like sitting there going, yeah, that was a great scene, boys. Wasn't it great? Yeah. And in here, it had emotion, not quite as much, though, because they couldn't. But I'm glad they didn't badly CGI her.
I was glad, because I did not want not that I really didn't have a problem with darn it, my mind is going blank. Darn, and my name is going in the Rogue One. Peter Cushing.
Oh yeah,
Peter Cushing. I thought it was kind of okay. It was nice seeing Peter Cushing, because I'm a huge Hammer horror fan, and it was nice. But then again, it looked weird, and I did not want that to happen. It was like, oh wow, Peter Cushing! I'm glad to see him on a film again. But it was like nice seeing him again. But then again, it looked weird.
It was a little plasticky in Rogue One. They didn't have it quite there. They could have easily done it as a silhouette of him with his voice, and ever had to have him full interact like they did in Rogue One. And that's what I was kind of worried they were going to do with Leia, because at the end of Rogue One, when they had young Princess Leia, sorry, she looked like a video game cutscene. And so I'm just glad they didn't do that here. The way they went about it, was very respectful, and the best way they could probably handle it with Leia. Is it exactly how we wanted it to go? No, but you can't. Real world things just happen.
Ben says, thinking about the trilogy as a whole, do you think Rey was always a Palpatine in the story, or was it just a change based on the Last Jedi hate?
You want to answer that one first?
To be honest, I don't know what made them decide to make her a Palpatine. I don't know what's based on the Last Jedi hate. The hate coming from Last Jedi came more of Luke Skywalker, not about Rey. So I don't think Rey being a Palpatine had anything to do with the Last Jedi hate. It was mainly based upon not my Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker doesn't do this way. This is not the Star Wars I've known since I've grown up as a kid. You know, that's where all that hate come from. But you know, that I don't think that has anything to do with Rey being a Palpatine.
Well, and what you mentioned, the Luke Skywalker thing, like I said, he's been around me since I was 2.5 years old. I loved what they did with Luke in The Last Jedi. It's what every freaking Jedi Master seems to do. People forget that. Yoda, Obi-Wan, they turn into hermits, and either they turn a little cuckoo or they get crotchety, but it happens. You know, that's what they end up doing, cutting themselves off from the Force so they're not detected. So I had no problems with what they did with Luke. I love that exploration of his character. As far as the Palpatine and Rey angle, it's hard to say, but I'm leaning towards, with the way The Last Jedi ended, I almost feel like they worked it into where she was a Palpatine, but that wasn't necessarily the original plan. I always got kind of the feeling that it was either implied that she just was from nothing, or that she may have been a Skywalker in some respects. But yeah, I don't think right away that maybe at the end of Last Jedi that she was supposed to be a Palpatine, just because there's really nothing in The Last Jedi that would hint at that. Yeah. Whereas we get a hint at that within the first 5-10 minutes of Rise of Skywalker. Suddenly it's out of nowhere. It's like, oh, you know, you knew she had maybe a dark side and a light side. And that's what I liked about Last Jedi, where it was going, was the fact that there wasn't necessarily a light and dark anymore. Force users could be both, you know, have a little bit of both in them and a little bit of balance. And that's what the impression I kind of got where they were trying to go with The Last Jedi. And then we get back to here and nope. You've got, you know, bad guys, good guys. You know, you don't have really a gray area in there for a lot of the films. So, you know, I think yeah, what Ben is saying, I think there was a lot of hype around her lineage, and people were concerned, you know, making her come from nothing. I like that storyline. I think the Palpatine thing may have been added partly because of that. Something they may have been tossing around, and then they see the reaction of fans and go, okay, nope, she's going to be a Palpatine.
Because that was the whole thing people were talking about, especially, well, maybe she is a Skywalker, because that was a lot of internet was buzzing about when they were trying to figure out who her parents were, and everyone was going about, well, she's got to be a Skywalker, because we know that we don't know if Skywalker actually had children. I says, well, no, he didn't have any children. I says, I don't know why you're trying to force something that's really not there. I said, why can't she just be a girl that just had average parents and she has Force sensitive? That's just leave it at that. I like that story better. You know, it would have made a little bit more sense when Palpatine discovers that there's Force children out there that might be a threat to his power. So he goes out and tries to find them and kill them. You know,
which is why her parents would hide her away on Jakku, is because, I totally. Yeah, that's where I was like, why couldn't she just be Force sensitive? And then end of Last Jedi, we got that implication where you get the kid who used the Force to get the broomstick, and he used it, you know, he's holding it like a lightsaber in that last image. I loved how that ended, because I'm like, are we going to get?
That's going to be good. It's going to be good. I thought it was a good way to end it, because wow, we got all these Force sensitive kids, and I'm surprised that. I'm assuming that somehow a lot of people didn't like it, so that's why we never see that in The Rise of Skywalker, because I assume that what they were going to do was get all those Force-sensitive kids, and they would join Rey, and we have a nice battle in the third act of this movie. But for some reason, that never took place.
No, it would have been interesting to see what Johnson's vision would have been for the third film. Unfortunately, we probably won't ever. You know, unfortunately. And again, this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, where it feels like the voices are so loud on the internet. They affected Rise of Skywalker in some respects. You know, like the scene with Luke, and where when she finds out who she is, she goes and destroys her. She's going to pull a Luke and go on the island and become a hermit.
Yeah.
and Ghost Force Luke, which you knew who was coming,
Yeah.
even if you didn't look at the credits beforehand on IMDb, you know they were going to have Ghost Force Luke. They had to.
Of
And
course.
you know, he came out and he grabs the lightsaber after she throws it and he goes, "It deserves more respect." And he smirks. Yeah. And he smirks. And I look at that going, okay, did we have to do that for all those people who complained about it? Did we really? Because that was one of the few moments in this film that was just blatant, like, really? Now you're going to breaking the fourth wall and you know, you're really, you know, at one hand. On the other hand, it kind of fit because it could be that he realized, you could play at that angle, that Luke realized that it did deserve more respect than what he treated it. But on the other hand, with all the stuff you know about the outside world, it felt like a little bit of, here you go, guys. There you go. You know,
Here we go. We're
put a little,
correcting another mistake. Yeah, we know we kind of messed up with with the Last Jedi. So here we go. We're correcting that mistake.
yeah, which, you know, for me, I didn't see it as a mistake. I thought it was an interesting character, you know, and it was surprising. And I kind of dug what they did with Luke, but I understand why they put it in there. It was the Band-Aid to put over that, which, you know, J.J. Abrams seemed to be doing not only for the newest trilogy, but also for the prequels and the original trilogy. You know, he seemed like you get in a little bit of salve for any complaints people had for the previous 8 films.
One of the things that I saw one of my reviews was the supposed death of Chewbacca. Did you think that? Did you actually think Chewbacca they were going to off another person?
Nope. Nope. Especially after the passing of Leia. I did not. Well, there was a track in the soundtrack that John Williams released early that everybody was like, "Oh, gee, thanks, John." That involved the Millennium Falcon, implying that maybe it was the last flight of the Millennium Falcon. But obviously that didn't happen. The Falcon didn't, because, you know, destroying the Falcon is like having Norman Reedus get killed in The Walking Dead. That's just not going to happen, because you're going to have your own rebellion.
You know, it's like this: if Daryl dies, we riot.
Right? So if Chewbacca died after you had Luke, Han, and Leia pass away, no, I knew that because once I saw that, I said, "Oh no, he's still alive," because they're not going to. They already killed. Now, keep in mind, Harrison Ford was the one that said, "You know, if I want to star in this film, you're going to have to kill off Han because I'm too damn old to be playing Han Solo anymore." Right. So I give him credit for that. It was great seeing his cameo too come in for.
Yeah. I wasn't surprised that he was in it. I thought it was a touching. It fit the moment, and it was the right time for him to come in. I thought it was a nice way for him to be in the film for a good 5 minutes. And I thought it was a great scene between him and Adam Driver.
Oh yeah, it was a wonderful scene. It was poignant. It had meaning. It didn't feel like it was just tossed in there for appeasing the fans. You know, it was natural. It worked, and it was great seeing him one last time on there as well. I like Ben's question. Cuter Star Wars plush, Ewok, Porg, or Yoda? That's a tough one, but of course, Baby Yoda. You know, I mean,
yeah, I have not seen The Mandalorian because I don't have Disney Plus.
Well, I don't either. But I just saw pictures of the Baby Yoda. Now, if we're talking normal Baby Yoda, if we're talking Baby Ewoks, those are gonna be the cuteness winners all the live long day. The little baby Ewoks, in Jedi. But if we're talking full grown adult Ewoks, I'll say the Baby Yoda probably, but yeah.
Yeah. So third act. Because I actually talked to somebody about this. I actually expected a lightsaber battle, because as I did like the interaction between Rey and Kylo Ren in the second act, when they were going around, they had their little nice lightsaber battle in between them, and he pulls their braids off. I expected a much more better lightsaber. I thought the lightsaber battle they had on top of the second Death Star was kind of boring. It really didn't have the type of excitement that I've seen in almost all the lightsaber battles that I've seen in the Star Wars saga. I know as much people didn't like the Phantom Menace, but that lightsaber battle was the best thing about the Phantom Menace, with Ben Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul.
That's the only reason you watch the Phantom Menaces for that. What are you talking about?
It's like I didn't get my great lightsaber battle. I was a bit disappointed in that third act, and because all he does is his force lightning, and I was like, well, I want to see lightsaber battles. What do you think about that third act?
I liked how it played out. It was, it was trying to be different than what we've had in the third act of pretty much end of the other two trilogies, which was massive lightsaber battle. Don't get me wrong. I love my lightsaber battles. I love the original one in A New Hope between Obi-Wan and Vader, though people said, oh, that was boring. I know I like that for that setting. Loved the one between Anakin and Ben in Revenge of the Sith. Holy, the end of Phantom Menace. Loved that one. This one, I get what you're saying with the second Death Star battle wreckage. I like that. It was a different context because they weren't really trying. Well, one was really trying not to kill the other.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a little restriction there. The third act here, what I was kind of hoping for, and I understand it. Someone explained to me on that I was talking to, saying, well, Kylo was the leader of the Knights of Ren, so of course he's going to be the biggest badass. But at the same time, I would have liked to see a more involved fight between Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren when he faces them as Ben, and she does the whole passing of the lightsaber, which I thought was
I thought that was great too.
What I loved about that is, one, it was just awesome, and two, it was acknowledging the thing that came up in The Last Jedi that they proved you can do, which is actually touch and interact with one another through the Force. So it wasn't completely negating The Last Jedi. In fact, The Last Jedi, what they introduced there as far as what you can do in the Force, ends up being a major plot in the climax of the film of her handing the lightsaber to him. And I would have liked to see a better fight between him and the Knights of Ren, even though he was their leader. It would have been nicer to see, more involved. Though he did have that great moment where once he got his lightsaber and turned it on, and everybody kind of took a step back. And then he did that little hand gesture, like, okay.
Ben said, the battles were not that great. Also, when Ben was fighting those guys and they all paused when he poses for the whole grabbing of the lightsaber from Rey. That's because they knew that once he had his lightsaber that their goose was cooked. They're like, oh shit.
They're like, oh crap, the boss has his weapon. We're screwed now. The fight between, for everybody's complaint about The Last Jedi, the fight between Rey and Ben and Kylo at the time and the Knights of Snoke was fantastic. I loved that battle. I loved that. And I would have liked to see something like that between Kylo and the Knights of Ren here, because we've built up the Knights of Ren so much. But all they really do throughout most of this film is walk to places, stand menacingly, and then go somewhere else and stand menacingly.
Hey, I'm the Knights of Ren. I'm a badass. I'm gonna walk this way. Hey, I'm the Knights of Ren. Like,
they just like, we're the Knights of Ren. You even get the stormtrooper going, oh, those are the Knights of Ren. I'm like, really? Come on.
They gotta be badasses. Come on, have them do something terrible.
Have them go annihilate a bunch of Ewoks again or something. I don't know, something to show how badass these guys are, rather than stand around Kylo like a boy band. It just.
Did you like the did you like the fact that they added this healing thing from the Force? Because it's like when
Oh yeah.
yeah, when they get to that little snake thing on the planet, and then Rey heals it with part of her Force. Did you like that aspect that they added on to the Force?
Oh yeah, and I mean that's been a part of like what you see in the video games, and even I think in some of the books. I haven't unfortunately read the legacy books that used to be canon, but that was pulled. Force heal is a thing, and it's the first time we saw it, and it worked. I loved it because they're finally addressing that has, and that shows you why the people were kind of as they were of the Jedi in general and Force healers, because they could do this crap, like to kill a Jedi or Force user, and this is one of the reasons. And so I liked that worked into the end of that on the wreckage to where Rey realized her and was able to heal Kylo, and it also plays into the Emperor showing he can come back and doing the healing. I mean, it throughout, and I'm glad they did because it has been out there. It just we haven't actually seen it in the movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but
and
it's part of Star Wars lore.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely been out there in Star Wars lore. So, yeah, I like the Force healing quite a bit. I didn't think it took away from it. I think it was a natural. It felt like a natural talent that they would have because it's been around everywhere else but the movies. So.
Well, I'll give Abrams credit that he actually started pulling some stuff outside of the movies and other Star Wars media that either from whether the Star Wars Rebels or Star Wars the Clone Wars, or just like what you said, was it Dark Universe or Dark
the Dark Empire, the comics, Empire, the Dark Empire.
Yeah, because when Rey is laying down on the ground and she hears all the people from all the Jedis, we get to hear some other Jedis, like I think Anakin's apprentice from the Clone Wars and Rebels. We hear her.
Ahsoka, yeah.
I actually like her. It's a shame I haven't gotten a chance to see it, but I think she's a great character. If they want to do a live version of her, I would like to see a live version of her on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I would totally. I enjoyed her. Now I only watched the Clone Wars. I haven't watched the other animated series. I know. I have so much to watch. But I really liked her character in the first animated series, or the Clone Wars, where she was, the apprentice of Luke, Luke and that. And I liked that. I liked her character quite a bit. And yeah, it would great to see her get her own series, or at least a movie, or be introduced into the film universe. So, but yeah, you hear other Jedi too. From my understanding, you even hear Mace Windu.
You hear Mace Windu. You hear Qui-Gon Jinn. You hear the young Obi-Wan and the old Obi-Wan. So you hear Ian McGregor and Ben. Forget his name.
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness. You hear their voices. You hear everybody.
Yeah.
One of the complaints that I heard from other Star Wars fanboys, they were complaining about Leia, and again saying that how did Leia become a Jedi? All of a sudden she's got Jedi power. So it's like, look, you have to understand something. She is a Skywalker. She has Force powers. So obviously Luke must have trained her sometime after the events of Return of the Jedi. So I'm not surprised when Rey called her Master.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, no. I mean, and we even get a scene in there, for crying out loud, because that's how she gets the second lightsaber, Leia's lightsaber.
Yeah.
They show a scene which actually looked really good, where they did de-aging of Luke and Leia. It didn't look too bad. You got the Force, motherfucker. I wanted to see that so bad. That would have been awesome.
I had to always laughing if you would have said that.
Ghost Mace Windu comes up and goes, "What are you doing? You got the ghost, motherfucker. You got the Force." But it made sense. I mean, we saw it maybe those guys are the ones that are trying to push the idea out from Last Jedi. It wasn't done well, but it still showed she was in tune with the Force powers, which implied that, hey, she was trained at least somewhat in the Force. And it makes sense at the end of Jedi because she did the sense thing of, Han goes, I'm sure Luke wasn't on that thing, got off that thing before it went out. And she's like, no, he was. I sense it, So she sensitive in her Force. Luke was big on Luke was big on protecting her. And so it would make sense that after Jedi, since she is Force sensitive, he would train her how to use her powers to protect herself. So it's only natural. So the people coming out, oh, how did she chose not to necessarily use them, but that doesn't mean that she is any less capable of using it when needed.
Because I know, because like I said, just like you said, in that scene where she's floating in space and everyone's pissed off because all of a sudden she should be able to die, but I said she is Force sensitive, so she knows some ideas of how to use it. So of course she's going to use it to get back onto the ship. I mean, come on, guys, use your imagination. Stop hating.
Use your imagination is exactly right. And it's like people seem to forget that, we got to hold. I'm like, let go a little. I didn't like how it looked CGI wise, but her doing that didn't bug me much. I didn't like how it was done visually, but the fact that it happened didn't bug me. And in fact, watching it later on, I thought it fit her character. Yeah, she's with the Force, it's like, come on, relax a little. She's Force sensitive. You can't tell me that Luke would have not trained her how to after Jedi. Especially with so few Jedis out there.
Now, obviously, of course, you have no problem of her calling herself Rey Skywalker.
No, well, at the end, no, I didn't have a problem with her calling herself Rey Skywalker. I thought that worked. Seeing Leia and Luke there, again, that was another thing where they didn't necessarily have to. But I kind of liked it. It was a bookend. It was showing that she was completely rejecting her dark side, and she's fully over into the light. And then she's got that badass lightsaber as well. I loved her lightsaber.
But of course, what do you think they're going to go with Star Wars now that this is all over and they completed this long journey with from the original trilogies to the prequels to this one right now? What do you think they're going to go with Star Wars now? What do you think Disney has in plan? Do you think they actually try to do another sequel trilogy again?
I think they are, because Disney doesn't like doing pairs of films. It's one or three. If you look at they very rarely like doing just two films, one and its sequel. So I haven't read too much about it. I know there's been talk of a brand new fresh sequel that has nothing to do with the Skywalkers, which is just fine by me. They're talking about doing I love Disney. 2 years ago, after the backlash of Last Jedi and then Solo, they're like, oh, we're backing off and we're not going to do a Star Wars movie every year. And now, just recently, they announced we're going to be doing a Star Wars movie every year. Oh man, people are starting to like Rise of Skywalker and they love Mandalorian. We're going to do a movie every year now again. It's like, come on, make up your minds. I think they're going to do another trilogy. It won't have anything to do with the Skywalkers or anything. What I'd like to see is actually more Star Wars stories like Rogue One. And even though it wasn't that well written, movies like Solo, you have this huge universe and we've only ever seen just a bit of it. I mean, how many times have we gone to Tatooine? A big ball of sand, and we're freaking, and then they go to another planet in Rise of Skywalker. Guess what? That's a big ball of sand too. And Jakku, looks like Tatooine. I mean, I'd like them to see the
Put it this way: no more sand planets, and no more planets that have gambling on it.
exactly. I'd like to see a story, and I hope they're kind of leading to it, of a story in the Outer Rim worlds, because they talk about them in here, and they even talk about them, in the previous films, the Outer Rim, the on the outskirts of where all the regular civilization. I would like to see adventures in that. I don't know if they're going to explore that. It'd be nice to see them explore that.
Oh yeah.
And now I haven't watched The Mandalorian yet, so I'm not sure where those take place, but I definitely think another trilogy is coming.
Yeah, I would like to see them go back into the past where you had the Old Republic. They can do something about that, something about the Old Republic before, eventually became, the Galactic Republic and become the Galactic. I'd like to see something based on the Old Republic, maybe see how the Jedi Knights were born, see Yoda go through his training and how he becomes, Master Yoda. I would like to see something like that.
Oh yeah, Knights of Old Republic. I mean, there was talks that they were going to do that, and I think when the Game of Thrones writers were initially tied to it, I think that's what they were going to go with their story. And then when they left the projects, I think they're going in a different direction. I'd love to see a Knights of Old Republic movie. I could handle a trilogy with that quite a bit. That would be awesome, with Jedis all over the place. And
I'd love to see a Star Wars horror movie.
I'd be down for a Star Wars horror movie.
Try that. I mean, put it this way: they're going to make a horror movie out of the trench from Aquaman. They can do that. They can actually make a horror movie based on Star Wars lore. They got enough creatures in there to make a horror movie out of Star Wars. They can definitely do that. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Well, there's enough shady characters we've seen in the Star Wars universe anyway to make any one of them a serial killer. I'd love to see a serial killer, a galactic serial killer.
Serial killer.
Oh yeah,
that'd be yeah.
That'd be interesting. So
yeah. So out of all this universe that we've been through now, I think I was probably like maybe. Came out in 77, so I was probably like maybe 10 or 13 when Star Wars eventually came out. Overall opinion about the whole Star Wars saga.
It's been interesting. What's interesting about it is where people started their Star Wars saga. Like you, I mean, I was much young. I was younger. I was 2.5, but the original, what I call the original trilogy, what a lot of people do, episode 4, 5, and 6, those are our Star Wars. And it's interesting to see where they've taken this story with 7, 8, and 9, and the origins with 1, 2, and 3. I mean, it's been interesting, but if you look at each trilogy, I think each trilogy kind of reflects that generation.
Yes.
So, the way the story is, the way the characters are, I think each generation has its own trilogy owned to it. With the 90s kids, unfortunately, getting shortchanged with the special editions. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. But outside of the special edition ones, it's just been very interesting to see them progress the way they have. And overall, I'm very satisfied with it. I obviously 4, 5, and 6 are still my some really close to me because those are the ones I grew up with initially. I never thought 42 years later we'd still be talking new Star Wars, which is awesome. I love the fact that people don't realize the awesomeness that is the fact that they can be enraged by new Star Wars material 42 years after the series started. Because
like I said, I enjoyed 4, 5, and 6. Never had a problem with 1, 2, and 3. I could understand the people, especially with Attack of the Clones, and of course with Jar Jar Banks and Attack of the Clones. But
Sorry, episode 1 for me is still on the bottom. It just really adds nothing to the story. It adds nothing.
And like I said, I enjoyed this. I call this nostalgia look back with 7, 8, 9. I called it the nostalgia look, especially with The Force Awakens. I thought The Last Jedi was kind of try to take the Star Wars saga into a different route. And I think that's what Rian Johnson was trying to do, is say, look, I understand how much people love Star Wars, but I want to try to do something a little bit different that we haven't. So I'll give him credit for that. That's what he attempted to do. Unfortunately, he pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah, unfortunately, because it's a bold move, and I liked it. That's what I loved about The Last Jedi, was somebody doing something different.
Yeah. The one thing I always like to do, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like some of the films when they try to do something different. That's one of the reasons why I kind of, when it came to the Black Christmas, even though it sucked, I like the fact that they tried to do something different other than rehash Billy's story.
Right.
So I'll give them credit for doing something that. A better example is Child's Play 2019. I like the fact that they did not try to rehash Charles Lee Ray. They tried to do something different and make Chucky a different character as opposed to keep rehashing the same thing. So I give Rian Johnson credit for trying to do something different. But some people just can't take change.
Well, not when it's so near and dear to their heart, with this. And that's the thing, is we've got to, it's great that we have in our pop culture geek is chic, so to speak, where, you have these things now that are being discussed in regular culture, pop culture. It's no longer just the weird sci-fi boys that like this, you know what I mean? Just like horror, it's mainstream discussions now. But at the same time, I think we have to let go. And I've been guilty of it in the past when I was younger, especially, that you have to realize those things that you love didn't change because of the new thing. I'm with you. Child's Play got a nice upgrade. It was not made for you or me. It was made for a new generation of horror fans.
Yeah. So I give the filmmakers and the writers credit for say, okay, we can't just continue to rehash the same storyline. We have to do something different to please to do something different to make the horror fans enjoy what we have. Ben Grimm says, where would you put Rise of Skywalker in your total Star Wars ranking? In the top or bottom half? I have it somewhere in the middle.
It's going to be in the top half, maybe a little lower in the top half, but it's still in the top half. I don't think it's nearly the hot trash that some people are saying it is.
It's not.
The reason the tried and published critics, I think, because I saw someone put a thing of critics review versus audience review for Rotten Tomatoes for Last Jedi versus Rise of Skywalker. And I think the reason the critics like The Last Jedi so much more than Rise of Skywalker is exactly what we've talked about tonight, Monty, is the fact that Last Jedi was trying to do something different. It was different formula. Even though you had a lot of similar things going on, it was still trying to take things in a new direction, which I think movie critics liked. You get to Rise of Skywalker, there is a whole lot of nostalgia. And I mean, it's just chocked full of nostalgia, which isn't a bad thing. But that's why I think the critics don't like Rise of Skywalker, yet the fans love it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when Luke's up and he's got his hand up and the X-Wing comes up, that's back of Return of the Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah, it's called right back. He's even got his hand held the same way Yoda did on purpose, because he couldn't raise it in Empire, but now he can raise it as a Force ghost. Unfortunately, it took him getting killed to do it, but hey, But yeah, Rise of Skywalker is not hot trash by any means. It's serviceable. I would have actually, and I don't believe I'm saying this for a modern film, but I actually would have liked another 20 minutes on this film.
Because that's really I wanted, because I figured that, hey, look, let me have at least a good 5-minute lightsaber battle. I don't mind it if it's an extra 5 minutes. I don't care. I want it. I know. Let's get the duel of the nights on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's all. Let's see some good lightsaber battles.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a really intense lightsaber battle at the end. There's some other things they could have explored more. I mean, Rise of Skywalker's got a lot of mileage to cover in a short amount of time. I would have liked to see another 20 minutes to where they could give a little breathing room and explore a little bit more with Finn and Jenna. Maybe give us a bigger lightsaber battle between either Rey and Kylo, or hell, have just some random, guy that the Emperor created, some clone or whatnot he create, come out and have them fight a Palpatine clone that's full of, with a badass lightsaber. Something like that. It would have been nice to have, but I came out satisfied with Rise of Skywalker. So.
Yeah, because like I said, just as much as I enjoyed it too. Like I said, my only problem was I felt the story was a bit flat. It didn't have any juice, and but other than that, like I said, it's definitely it's kind of on my high tier as far as ranking is concerned when it comes to the Star Wars films. But it's not Attack of the Clones.
Everybody really hates Attack of the Clones. I didn't have quite as much problem with it as Phantom Menace personally, but because at least Attack of the Clones added a bit more to the story overall saga. Phantom Menace,
Christensen. He's just
it's more the actor that they chose than the actual movie itself. I think with Attack of the Clones, he's holding me back. I'm like, it just doesn't work well. And plus, Lucas, he can write. God bless him. Guy's a great creative work. His direction, not so much. So you combine Hayden Christensen with George Lucas direction, and you get Attack of the Clones. But for me, I enjoyed it more than Phantom Menace, because Phantom Menace, the whole point of Phantom Menace was Anakin meeting Ben. That was the whole point of that entire film. There's nothing else added really to the overall Skywalker saga.
You gotta love the pod races. It's just call back to Ben Hur. See, and here's the problem. Here's the problem, because when I was telling people that the pod races is a callback to Ben Hur, now of course, being an old head like me, some of the young people had never heard of Ben Hur before. I said, "Come on, you never saw Ben Hur in the chariot races?" And like, "Oh, what are you talking about, money?"
Well, they did later on when you got the remake of Ben Hur. They had chariot races then. So, but yeah.
That's another problem. Who the hell gave them the idea to remake Ben Hur?
Money. It's just money and trying to keep the rights to the property. That's all it is, man. That's why we get remakes. That's why we get sequels, is them coming up so they don't lose their licensing rights to that property. And it's sad. Though that Ben Hur wasn't awful. It wasn't exactly great, but
because I'm saying to myself, I get it. Movies are going to get remade, even classic movies like Ben Hur and the Ten Commandments. Trust me, once they find the time is right, Jaws will get remade, and so will The Exorcist. They'll get remade. The time is not right yet, but they will get remade.
But you got that, Meg. Anyway, sorry.
I was like, wait a minute, they're going to remake Ben. I said, no one remembers Ben Hur. The reason why I know Ben Hur is because my mother took me to go see it when I was little, and you can't forget that chariot race and Ben Hur. But it's like most people don't know. Most people, especially younger people, don't know anything about Ben Hur. I guess they felt as though there might have been an audience that wanted to see Ben Hur. Maybe they thought some of the older crowd would see it. But yeah, I see, and they found out that no one did.
Well, that was just slightly Ben Hur coming out just slightly as streaming was picking up. I almost guarantee you that if they were making that today, it would have gone direct to video. that would have probably never made it to the big screen at all. But then again, we got a movie like Truth or Dare on the big screen, so they'll release anything. So.
Yeah, so I think we picked your brain enough for tonight, Mark. I think I want to thank everybody for coming. This will probably be my last video of the year. Had a fantastic year. I want to thank all my subscribers for supporting me. I will definitely have some good stuff coming out next year. This will be my 4th year on YouTube. And I definitely will have another giveaway coming up soon on for my 4th year. I should hit 1,000 subscribers hopefully by that time as well. I think I'm less than 30 subs behind to hit the 1,000 subscribers. And going to have like at least 2 prizes, 2 for 1 for this giveaway. I had to come up with it yet, but that's definitely what's coming up for me in my next year. And obviously more horror pictures coming up, because coming next Saturday is The Grudge.
Oh my god! Oh, is that already? Is that already coming? Oh, sorry. There's nothing in that trailer that makes me go, "Ooh, I want to see that horror film." I know you want to wrap it up, Monty, but you've got to admit it's interesting how in the last 10 years, because everybody's talking about 10 to 2020, it is amazing for us horror fans to see so much widescreen horror films being released, because for many years we had it just to direct to video stuff in the late 90s to 2000s, and now we're getting like a horror movie a month in the theater. I mean, what do you think about it? I think that's pretty doggone cool, whether or not it's shitty horror or not.
Yeah, I think mainly the success of The Conjuring and It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 realized Hollywood, especially the filmmakers, the studios finally found out, hey, maybe there actually is a market for horror films where we can actually make a lot of money. Now, of course, some of them still do the dumb same thing. So you get movies like Countdown and The Curse of La Llorona.
The Gallows too.
Oh, yeah.
God. Anyway.
Yeah, that actually makes me like The Gallows better.
Well, that's not saying much.
First of all, when I saw I said, they actually made a sequel? First of all, The Gallows sucked. It was terrible, especially with that annoying-ass asshole that was waiting for him to die.
The Gallows 1 was 14 jump scares and 5 minutes of something interesting at the very end. That's the entire Gallows. Yeah. And I couldn't believe they justified doing a sequel. I'm like, why? There's nothing.
And then they wait until towards the end of the movie, and the girl that was at the end of the first one, she appears for about 5 minutes in the movie.
Well, I mean, they did that with the Hostel sequel, though, too. I always get frustrated with that, especially with horror films, where you get the Hostel, you get this character who's been through hell and back. He survives. And in the first 15 minutes of the sequel, he's dead. He's dead. He's killed. Just unceremonious, just killed. I'm like, what the really? Why'd you bring him back at all? Just
back it off. You could have killed him. It's like,
there was no reason to bring him back either. That story with Hostel 2, there was no reason why you had to have that at all.
And all you had to do was to start the story with the 3 girls going to abroad, and next thing you know, get caught up in that Salavo thing again. That would have been better. I would have enjoyed it without having Jay Hernandez waste 15 minutes of his life. I mean, waste 15 minutes of it. I hope he got paid a lot of money just to do that.
I'm hoping so too. Unless it was unused footage, and that was actually supposed to be the end of Hostel 1, and they didn't want to end it that way, so they left it for the sequel.
Well, you never know. All right, guys. I will see you all later. Hopefully, like I said, this will be my last video of the year. I think I'll be making another video until the new year. So I will see you next Saturday when I review The Grudge 2020. It's gonna be interesting. Let's hope that starts the year off right.
It's gonna start the year off. I don't know about right.
All right. I'm going to have links in the description for Mark's channel. Like I said, he does movie reviews. The Spoiler Room Podcast, Final Cut, and was it Movie Man Minute?
I am doing the Movie Man Minutes still. Those may go away, but I do have a couple other shows that I'm going to be bringing back in 2020, including my Star Wars web series, which back in the day when I started 13 years ago, helped kind of launch my channel. A web series I did with a vlog with a Stormtrooper action figure from 1977. So that's going to be coming back for sure in 2020. So a lot of stuff I do on there. Because I'm always got ideas. So,
all right. Yeah. Before we go, what movies are you looking forward to next year?
Oh well, of course, Godzilla versus King Kong. I can't wait. I know it got pushed out. That's fine. I can wait longer. I'm fine with that. Not sure on Black Widow. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. The trailer's got me somewhat interested, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I usually am not one of those where, oh, I've got to see this. The biggest one for me is going to be the Godzilla film. That's for me. I'm like, I want to see that. I can't wait. I saw the one leaked picture and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So, because I'm a big Godzilla nut. So that's probably one of my bigger films I'm looking forward to.
Kills?
Huh?
Not looking forward for Halloween Kills?
I'm not sure. On one hand, it'll be cool with Jamie Lee Curtis back. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I would have liked them to stop. just you don't have to just stop. Come on, man. But it's a horror franchise, and we know exactly how they like to milk those franchises. I mean, just look at the Leprechaun series, right? Look at
to be honest, I actually did like Leprechaun Returns.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice. The guy that played it, I thought he was a good replacement for Warwick Davis, and they had some nice kills. There's some nice kills in it, and I like the practical effects in it too. Yeah, it was silly. The plot was silly, but I did enjoy the film.
I will get flamed for it, but I fully am actually kind of looking forward to Birds of Prey. I'm really curious about that. Of course, Wonder Woman 1984. I'm actually interested to see what they do with Mulan. That one for the live action, that looks like it's going to try to be a little bit different. You got Antebellum coming out, which in April is going to be, I think that's going to be awesome. And New Mutants. And someone talked about, horror films. Let's talk about New Mutants in the MCU.
You're probably going to release that?
Yeah, they're finally going to release it. I don't know if they're going to still take the horror angle with it, but I remember seeing the trailer for it a while back, and I was like,
the trailer is like, wow, this is going to be decent. But then all of a sudden, 2050 Fox gets sold, and next thing you know, I thought maybe because of what happened to Dark Phoenix, they decided not to release New Mutants, so they decided just to keep it on the shelf. It's like,
oh, Dark Phoenix. Oh, Dark Phoenix. Never did I see a movie where none of the actors wanted to be there. But no, I'm curious. Really want to. When I saw Mutants and saw the trailer, I'm like, a horror superhero film, another one like love Brightburn. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I'm not too familiar with the New Mutants, but when I saw that trailer, I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, give that to me.
Yeah, I'm familiar because I read the comics of the New Mutants. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see how much of the source material they're going to play in all the characters, because they got mostly all the New Mutants that I know from the comics in this movie. So it's gonna be interesting.
Oh, okay.
See how they're going to play this as far as how the powers are going to be as far as the source material is going to be, because a lot of people really, other than people who read comics who know the New Mutants like I do, it'll be interesting to see how they want to play that.
I know what you're really looking forward to though is I know you're looking forward to the Hedgehog. I know you're even with the fixed model, I look at that film going, oh my God, is this actually going to compete with Super Mario Brothers as the worst video game film made? I'm like,
it's like this. First of all, when first the trailer came out and you saw the head.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck did they do? How did it looks so? I mean, even with the improvements, he kind of looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. But as much as I like Jim Carrey, it doesn't look funny at all. I mean, it's like this because when the cartoons came out, they had two versions of the comic. They had the kids one where they're silly, and then you had the more serious one.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they to take the comic version of Sonic from the cartoons and decided to make a movie out of that one. I guess they thought maybe kids would go see it, but I guess that's why they made it this way. It just looked,
Yeah, I don't know. There's actually a lot of I'm looking forward to. None that are really highly anticipated outside of the Godzilla versus King Kong, but there are a lot of ones that I'm curious about. It looks like we are going to have a nice variety of different films.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate that quite a bit. And so, there's that horror film coming out that looks interesting called Antlers.
Oh yeah, I did a trailer reaction for it. That looks decent. It's got some of the ritual in it.
Mm-hmm. And we've got The Quiet Place 2 Part 2, which is natural because it's a horror film that made a shit ton of money. But did we actually need a Quiet Place 2? I don't think so. Sometimes it's good just to leave it to your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
The new Ghostbusters, I think, looks interesting, though I'm not highly anticipating for it, but I think it's interesting. There's a lot of films I'm interested in, but none that I'm like, I can't wait to see this one yet, because there's so much too out there outside of Godzilla versus King Kong. So maybe I'm a simple man like that, I guess. I don't know.
Just one last question. What, if you can, just off the top of your head, what was your best movie of the year and what was your worst movie of the year?
I dislike doing lists like this, but best movie of the year is going to, and I haven't seen 1917 and a few others yet, but from what I've seen so far, it's a tie between Dr. Sleep and an odd film that I'm sure many people don't like is The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot Sam Elliott. It was a direct-to-video release. It was in the festivals. Loved it, but it's a tie. But I really dug Dr. Sleep.
Enjoyed Dr. Sleep.
It was far better than I thought it was ever going to be. So, as far as worst one, you gotta take your pick. One of the worst ones, I will say, that came out was the submarine movie with Gerard Butler. The Hunter.
I think it was Hunter. I can't remember that now. I forgot they even came out.
It was
the only one I remember. Gerard Butler was Angel Has Fallen from the Fallen series.
Well, there was that one too, which was really not that great either. No one really asked for that one. But the other one, it was a Hunter Killer.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, Hunter Killer.
Thanks, Troy.
Well, I don't know how you could screw up a submarine movie with Gerard Butler and Gary Oldman, but they managed to do it. And that was 2018. I'm sorry, 2018 was that. My apologies. That was a year ago. It shows you how much it scarred me. Bad movies. I don't even remember my bad movies. I think I've blocked them out of my mind.
Well, for me, because I had, I'll say this: the top movies for me was Midsommar and Us. And
Midsommar and Us are good choices too. Those are in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, worst movies for me was I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu, and of course Black Christmas 2019.
See, and we'll have to agree to disagree with Black Christmas 2019, but okay, you know what? I'll put it out. One of the worst films I saw was Dark Phoenix. That was that was a chore to watch. Between that and Rambo Last Blood, those two are definitely near the bottom of my list because those were someone mentioned Countdown. Countdown was pretty bad. Countdown was pretty bad.
Because I like the premise. It was an interesting premise. You mean a killer app? Yeah, it was a decent premise, but again, it felt more like a very bad version of the Final Destination.
It did. It really was not. Yeah, it had a great concept, but just poor execution. Okay. It just and you're right. The Curse of La Llorona, that one was not. They had so much potential there too, and it just it fell so flat. It was like a chore to watch.
All right, everyone, let's go on ahead. I'll see y'all guys later. Like I said, make sure you comment below. Make sure you like this one. And hope you guys have a very, very merry new year. And I will see you in 2020. All right. Don't forget, like I said, don't forget to watch Mark on his channel as well. You'll probably see me on there again on the Spoiler Room podcast because, we just love talking about movies. All right, everyone. I'll see you guys later. All right.